Hello and welcome to week 6. Can you believe it's week 6 already? Almost done. Last week for economics, which means you have a test coming up, don't forget. Okay, so let's go into the PowerPoint and lecture notes. We're doing chapter 2. Okay, so that does not look right, does it? Wonder why it does not look right. Let me try one other thing here. I picked the PDF instead of the PowerPoint. That's why it doesn't look right. Let's try the PowerPoint. That would be much better. There we go. International trade and finance. We've been hearing a lot about that the past couple of years as far as international trade. And so let's get into it a little bit more. Learning objectives, the principle of opportunity cost, marginal principle, principle of voluntary exchange, principle of diminishing returns, and real nominal principle. Okay, so opportunity cost. What you're sacrificing to get something else. So the opportunity cost of money spent on tuition and books of $40,000. Opportunity cost of college time, 4 years working for 20,000 a year is 80,000. So economic cost or total opportunity cost is $120,000. Okay. Principle of opportunity cost, what you are sacrificing to get something. Cost of military spending. The war in Iraq costs well over $1 trillion now. Each 100 billion could instead support enrolling 13 million preschooler children in Head Start program for a year, hiring 1.8 million additional teachers for a year, immunizing all the children in less developed countries for the next 33 years. Okay, so here's a little graph, a curve that shows the possible combinations of products that an economy can produce given that its productive resources are fully employed and efficiently used. The production possibility curve illustrates the principle of opportunity cost for an entire economy. An economy has fixed amount of resources. If these resources are fully employed, an increase in the production of wheat comes at an expense of steel. Okay, so this is what we're giving up or getting, depending on where you're on the curve. Now this one is just for scarcity of production possibilities. So this is tons of steel per year, and this is tons of wheat per year. So it's saying you can only produce steel or wheat in this example. So for every unit of steel you lose, you gain wheat, and vice versa. Every unit of wheat that you lose, you gain steel, and that's on this curve here. So if you're here, that means you produce 650 steel, excuse me, and only 20 tons of wheat. Okay, so 650 tons of steel or 20 tons of wheat. If you're over here, you can produce 60 tons of wheat, but then you only get 300 tons of steel. Okay, and the reason for this is because of scarcity. We have limited resources, so you can't produce 100% of both. So applying the concept, what is the opportunity cost of running a business? Suppose you run a lawn cutting business and use solar powered equipment that you could sell tomorrow for $5,000. Instead of cutting lawns, you could work as a janitor for $300 a week. You have a savings account that pays weekly interest of 0.2% or 2/100ths per dollar. What is your weekly cost of cutting lawns? Well, the opportunity cost is $5,000, $10 weekly interest. Opportunity cost of time, $300 weekly, right? Because that's what you could make as a janitor, $300. And then the opportunity cost cutting is $310 a week. $10 for the interest, $300 for your labor, $310 a week. So, from an opportunity cost standpoint, you need to be making more than $310 a week mowing yards. Otherwise, your opportunity cost is negative. Okay, so the marginal principle, how many movie sequels? The marginal benefit of a movie sequel in a series decreases because revenue falls off with each additional movie. That's not always the case. They're just saying in general terms. Okay, in some movies actually increases. So we just have to take it as an average. So here's the number of movies: one, two, three, um, and then marginal benefit in millions: 300 million, 210 million, 135 million. Marginal cost: 125 million, 150 million, 175 million. Okay, so there's your marginal benefits and marginal costs. The marginal benefits decrease, so they decrease. Marginal costs increase, so that one goes up. And this is in millions, and this is number of movies. One, two, three. One, two, three. Okay. And so right there would be equilibrium, but you can't make 2.5 movies. So you have to determine whether you want to make 2 movies or 3 movies. With this being here, more than likely you would stop at 2. Okay, renting college facilities. Uh, because many colleges include costs that aren't affected by the use of a facility, they overestimate the actual cost of renting out their facilities, missing opportunities to serve student groups and making some money at the same time. Using the marginal principle, government should make emission standards stricter as long as marginal benefit, saving in healthcare costs and work time loss exceeds the marginal cost, the cost of additional equipment and extra fuel used. Or you could just go electric and then not have that. That would be even better. Okay, so let's go down to application 2. We have enough of this. So application 2 is how fast to sail. Applying the concept to how do people think at the margin. Consider the decision about how fast to sail an ocean cargo ship. As the ship's speed increases, fuel consumption increases, just like a car. The faster you go, the more fuel you use. Okay. So at 16.5 tons of fuel per day, it's 11 knots. At 21.4 tons, it's 12. 27.2 knots, it's 13 knots. And at 33.9 tons, it's 14 knots. So here's the number of tons of fuel per day, and here's your speed. Okay, so increased speed means the ship delivers more cargo per year, but at increased fuel costs. Decide the best speed the ship should operate at the marginal cost. Okay, well, the problem that we have with this is we don't know how much money we're getting for the cargo. But you can figure it out based on the generic amount as to which one would be most beneficial. Okay. Principle of voluntary exchange. Principle. Here are some examples. If you voluntarily exchange money for a college education, you must expect you will be better off with a college education. College voluntarily provides an education in exchange for your money, so the college must be better off too. If you have a job, you voluntarily exchange your time for money and your talents, time and talents for money, and your employer exchanges money for your labor. Both you and your employer are better off as a result. Otherwise, your employer would get rid of you or you would voluntarily leave employment there. Okay, so application 3, Rory McElroy and weed whacking. So should Rory McElroy whack his own weeds? The swinging skills that make Roy one of the world's best golfers could also make him a skillful weed whacker. With his large estate, the best gardener would take 20 hours to take care of all of them. Rory could whack done all the weeds in just an hour. We can use the principle of voluntary exchange to explain why Rory should hire the less productive gardener. Suppose Rory earns $1,000 an hour. His opportunity cost of whacking weeds then is $1,000. If the gardener charges $10 an hour, Rory could hire him to take care of the weeds for $200. So he is better off by $800. Rory specializes in what he does best, and then buys goods and services from other people. Just like a mechanic. You pay a mechanic up to $100, $110 an hour, depending on what work's being done. And if you're a physician, the mechanic has to come to you to get well when the technician's sick. So it's an exchange of money for talent. Okay, application 4, fertilizer and crop yields. Applying the concept number 4, do farmers experience diminishing returns? So here you have bags of nitrogen fertilizer, and here you have bushels of corn per acre. So you can see from 85 to 120 by adding the first bag. That's a huge increase, right? Almost 50%. But then from the second bag, it's only 15 bushels, right? So we're talking 10%, 11% there. And then the next one's only 9 bushels, which is far less than 10%. And then the last one's only 3 bushels. So you have huge diminishing returns when it comes to adding more fertilizer past the first bag or maybe the first 2 bags. But that would be the last one I would do is the second bag because the amount that you get is far, far less. Okay, and then the value of minimum wage. 1974, go up a little bit with this one. Between 1974 and 2011, the federal minimum wage increased from $2 to $7.25. Was the typical minimum wage worker better or worse off in 2011? By the way, the minimum wage is still $7.25 here in 2020. Hasn't changed since 2009 when it went from $7 to $7.25. So in 11 years, we have not seen any increase in minimum wage, and there's nothing being debated in Congress right now to increase that, in the Senate, excuse me, to increase that. Congress did pass a bill increasing minimum wage to $15 an hour, but the Senate does refuse to take it up. So it basically they got killed in the Senate. So minimum wage is still $7.25. And we can apply the real nominal principle to see what's happened over time to reveal real value of the federal minimum wage. So minimum wage per hour, 1974 is $2, 2015. Now they switched gears, didn't they? We went from 2011 to 2015. $7.25. Weekly income from wages, $80, $290. Cost of a standard basket of goods is $47 there and $236 here. And so number of baskets per week, you could buy 1.7 baskets of goods in 1974, and today you can only buy 1.23 baskets of goods in 2015. So that's gone down even more today after another 5 years. So we're probably a little over half. So even though it's $7.25 after inflation, it's really about 60% of that $2 in what you can actually purchase with it. So base price, because prices increase faster than nominal wage, the real value of minimum wage actually decreased over this period, which is what I just said. Okay, and that is the end of the chapter. And I believe you have a test coming up, so please be sure to do that and your discussion boards. Hope you all are having a great week.